Hello everyone. So in this video we will discuss what is a transaction. As you know, there are transactions in every industry. For example, in financial industry we have cash transactions. But what is a transaction in the context of software engineering? So in the context of software engineering, a transaction is defined as a set of instructions which will satisfy the ACID properties. So then the question is, what are ACID properties? ACID is actually an acronym. So A stands for atomic. Atomic means the transaction should be all or none. To explain further, as I said in the beginning of this video, a transaction is a set of instructions. So this set of instructions cannot be executed partially. Either all of them should be executed or none of them should be executed at all. So that is the term atomic. And after atomic we have C in ACID properties, which stands for consistency. So a transaction is supposed to bound by a set of regulations or constraints. These constraints should be adhered all the time by the transaction. So once the transaction is executed, after its completion, the existing relationships and constraints of current data should not be altered. That is what we mean by a transaction should be consistent. So moving on in ACID properties, next we have I, which stands for isolation. Isolation basically means a transaction should be isolated. That means it should not interfere with other transactions. It should execute on its own and should not depend on other transactions and should not interfere the output of other transactions. This means even though if we execute a set of transactions in parallel, to each transaction, the other transactions' intermediate states are not visible. For each transaction, either it sees its other transaction starts and ends before it, or it sees the other transactions starts and ends after that. So that is the basic meaning of the term isolation. And finally, in ACID properties, D stands for durability. Basically, once the transaction is completed, the changes done by that transaction should not be cleared or should not be erased for any reason. It can be a physical failure or it can be a software failure. No matter what, once a transaction is completed, the changes done to the dataset by that transaction should remain unaltered. Basically, a change done by a transaction should be changed only by another transaction, and until that change is done, the changes should prevail as they are. So those are the ACID properties we discussed very briefly, and hope it helped you to understand or to refresh your knowledge. And we'll meet in another video, and thank you very much. And please remember to subscribe my channel. Thank you.